Hola, buenos días. Mi nombre es Agustín Centelles, soy el director de desarrollo de ELARA y quería daros la bienvenida a esta 10ª edición de la ELARA Industrial Summit que hemos titulado Hacia la industria del mañana, 10 años innovando en el camino hacia la fábrica inteligente. Claramente esta edición es muy especial para nosotros. Ya son 10 las ediciones en las que venimos ofreciendo una visión integral y completa de lo que es la digitalización industrial, siempre de la mano de ponentes destacados de organizaciones multinacionales, nacionales y empresas también locales. Bueno, ya sabéis que en el corazón de ELARA, desde hace ya más de 18 años, está la digitalización de las plantas productivas, que al final, bueno, es a lo que nos dedicamos, ¿no? Y por eso estamos muy orgullosos de completar estos 10 años ofreciendo de manera continua experiencias y opiniones de clientes y empresas muy conocidas y de todo tipo de sectores y procesos productivos que nos han venido contando y también, bueno, probando que todas las empresas al final estáis en lo mismo, luchando por digitalizar vuestras plantas de la forma más eficiente y eficaz posible. Industria 4.0, plataformas IoT, sistemas de gestión de planta, MES y MOM, transformación digital industrial, bueno, etcétera, etcétera. Todos estos conceptos clave que son el presente y el futuro de la industria y que son la clave o una de las claves para ser competitivos en este mundo globalizado y que desde ELARA estamos muy orgullosos, la verdad, de dominar y poder compartir con vosotros año tras año en estas 10 ediciones. Antes de dar paso al primer ponente, daros de nuevo las gracias por vuestra asistencia. Esperamos que sea muy productiva y, bueno, sois muchos los que lleváis desde la primera edición acudiendo o viniendo de manera fiel a nuestras jornadas, así que agradeceros y también a nuestros partners del IES que desde hace varios años, bueno, colaboran en ellas. Y, bueno, y sin más dilación, ¿no? Os hablo un poquito de nuestro primer ponente, que es Daniel Wasnicka. I must introduce him. He's Master of Science in Industrial Engineering and Management at the Karlsruhe Institute of Technology in Germany. He's also PhD in Production and Operations Management at ETH Zurich in Switzerland. His research focuses on the effects of introducing new digital technology in production environments, and he's got extensive industry experience in the automotive sector, in management consulting and technology startup sector in companies such as Mercedes, Audi, BMW, Porsche, and others. We must say that ETH Zurich is the most prestigious university in Switzerland, and also is the probably top 5 or top 3 universities in Europe. And here we've got Daniel. So whenever you want, you can start. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Agustin. I will quickly share my presentation. I think you have to enable it really quick, the screen sharing. All right.
Yes, you can.
Okay. I hope everyone can see the screen by now. Yeah. Okay, perfect. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It is a pleasure for me today to talk a little bit about the introduction of new digital technologies in manufacturing. As Agustin already mentioned, my name is Daniel Wasnicka. Sorry for the complicated last name. I did my bachelor and master's of science in industrial engineering and management in Karlsruhe Institute of Technology in Germany, where I progressed to a PhD in production operations management at ETH Zurich right now. I am focusing my research mainly on the introduction of new digital technologies in manufacturing. And I also, as Agustin already mentioned, have some experience in industry, especially in the automotive industry. Spent quite some time at known car brands like Mercedes, BMW, and Audi, mostly in Germany, but also in the US. And also spent some time with management consulting like Porsche Consulting or MHP. I'm also part right now of the chair of production and operations management at ETH Zurich. So as you can see, I'm just one of many PhDs, and we're all researching interesting topics within production management. So me and some colleagues are more located in the smart manufacturing area, but we also cover other topics in manufacturing like global production, operational excellence, and behavioral operations. And as you can see on the right side, we also collaborate with lots of well-known companies like Hilti, for instance, or Siemens, or also institutions and organizations like the World Economic Forum. But let's talk about digitalization. Digitalization, I think, still remains one of the most important topics in manufacturing and society as a whole. As you can see here, these are just headlines, I think, from last week from some major newspapers, and they still talk about, you know, smart machines, IoT, Industry 4.0, and, you know, besides this, everyone is doing it. If you go on any company website from any production company, you will see that they somewhere talk about digitalization in production, that they talk about Industry 4.0, or also things like smart factory or connected factories. So this is still a very important topic and everyone talks about it. But before we start, I quickly want to draw your attention to what digitalization really is. The good thing is, in English, we actually have a differentiation between digitalization and digitization that some of you might know already. So when we talk about digitization, we merely mean the transformation of analog to digital information, but we don't really change any processes. The interesting thing with digitalization now is that we use this digital information to actually change decision-making, change processes, and also architectures and work routines in organizations. And this is also at the heart of my research. This is what I really focus on, and I think is also the more interesting part. I think with digitization, you can make a lot of gains in, you know, efficiency, you can speed up processes, etc., but you don't change them qualitatively. And to really change or revisit a process fundamentally, I think it really is all about the use of the digital information that you now have. And today I will also give an example, I think a pretty good example of what digitalization can look like. And as you know, many different technologies are used to actually digitalize operations in production environments. So we all heard about, you know, IoT and automation. Now more and more smart devices and wearables are introduced in manufacturing, and also augmented and virtual reality or drones are becoming more and more popular for some use cases. So the question is, the more digitalization, the better. And if we look at an interesting tweet that Elon Musk once put out in the world, he said, "Yes, excessive automation at Tesla was a mistake. To be precise, my mistake. Humans are underrated." So he made this comment when they had big problems to meet expectations with their Model 3 production. They could not keep up with the expectations. And Elon Musk said that one reason for that is that they focused extremely on automating things, digitalizing things, bringing IoT into the factory without neglecting humans or the workers in the factory. And he acknowledged in this tweet that actually humans are really underrated and they are still part also of the factory of the future. So the question is then, so what are the effects of introducing new digital technologies in manufacturing? And to answer this question, I want to give you some insights from a case company that I worked with for over 1.5 years now. So we actually gathered insights from a globally operating manufacturing company that is mostly in the automotive industry as a supplier. They're operating globally. So they have 28 plants all over the world. They produce over 15 million parts daily in all of their plants. So quite a number there. And they're also considered a process industry, what they're doing. So what the case company did is they digitalized their entire shop floor operations and actually kind of like change the organization on a shop floor to an activity or skill-driven shop floor. And I will also go into more details in a second. So on the left side here, you can see how their shop floor was organized, let's say 2 to 3 years ago. They had workers, and one worker was assigned to a certain amount of machines that he was running. So to become more flexible also on the shop floor, they introduced a smartwatch system, which I will also talk about in a second, to actually break up these smaller areas for the workers and create one big area where workers had responsibilities depending on what skills they had. And I will show you shortly an example where it becomes very clear how the system works. To give you a quick overview of what the system is about, so the Case company introduced the system in 2019. It is a smartwatch system. You can see this on the left side. So it depends, or it is based on smartwatches on the shop floor, but it also has an intelligent backend system and visualization tools that you can also see on the left side here. So these are pictures that I took from my tours through the plant. And how the system works is basically every worker is equipped with a smartwatch now in the production facility. And the smartwatch system allocates workers to tasks in real time based on the skills they have. So this means if I'm an available worker and I have a necessary skill that is required right now, I will get a message on my smartphone where it tells me at this machine, I need to perform this task right now. And I can go and accept this task and then go to that machine and perform the required task. This means, as you can also see in the picture with the smartwatch, I have the little check mark and the little cross, so I can accept or reject the task. Sometimes it can also be that I'm kind of busy, or maybe I need to go to the bathroom, who knows? So I need to reject the task, I can't do it. Managers on the other side, so team leaders, segment leaders, value stream leaders, they can all track everything that is happening on the shop floor through a virtual management system in real time. So they have lots of dashboards and they can see what team is performing, how are the machines running compared to the activity that is going on the shop floor. They can track everything. Nevertheless, the worker activity data is anonymous. So this means managers cannot go on the shop floor and tell one specific worker, hey, I just saw you didn't really work well. What is the problem? He can't do that because everything in the system stays anonymous. And workers can also use the smartwatch to make support calls, to take pictures of problems and send them directly to other departments if this is needed. So how does this work now in practice, so to say? So if we look at one worker that you can see on the left side, this worker has skills A, B, and E. So this means he can, in the entire factory, perform these 3 skills. It doesn't matter on what machine, on what area. He just has his skills and he can perform them anywhere. And the smartwatch will guide him through the production plan, basically. So could be that in a first iteration, he goes to this machine where he has the skill A, that was one of his skills. He can perform the necessary task. Then after he performed the skill, he would check his smartwatch and see what other skills he has to do now, or he can do now. So he might go all the way over here to perform another task, and could go over here to perform this task. And then as you can see, there is also a machine where the skill D is required, which this worker doesn't have. So of course, he does not get a message or a notification for this machine because he can't do the task anyways. So what could we observe after the Case company introduced this digital system? Actually, and I'm just gonna quickly touch into this, we saw many what we call paradoxical tensions that occurred in the workforce due to this digital system. So in academia, they define paradoxical tensions as contradictory yet interrelated elements that exist simultaneously and persist over time. All right, yeah, that's a very nice academic definition, but what does it really mean, right? So basically, we saw effects that happened, behavioral effects with the workers, and when they occur at the same time, they kind of seem illogical. They don't make sense when they appear at the same time. So they kind of like go against each other, but they also are somewhat independent of each other, and they persist over time. So they just don't go away because, you know, you wait 1 or 2 weeks. You actively have to manage these tensions. And to give you a more detailed or a deeper look in what tensions we found, I brought 2 examples that are really interesting. These tensions are the tensions between autonomy and control, and also exploration and exploitation. And what I mean by this, I will show you right now. So on the one hand, we saw that the new digital system that the Case company introduced actually provided more detailed real-time information, which enabled better decision-making for workers, but also for lower level management. It also helped to what I stated here as look around the corner. So you have to imagine in one part of the plant, there are over 50 machines. It's a jungle out there. And the machine, the smartwatch actually helped to look around the corner to see if a machine was interrupted, which you of course cannot see without the help of this digital system. And this also made workers a little bit more autonomous, as they could now, you know, go to machines that they haven't seen before because they saw the digital information in the system. But it also provided better information to workers to solve problems on their own, which they could not have done before, because the smartwatch also gives information about machines and interruption codes, where the worker could clearly see what is the problem. He could already bring some tools to the machine that he might need, and that also helped a lot. So in total, the smartwatch system actually increased the lower level management. So that is a really good thing. But on the other hand, at the same time, and that makes it somewhat paradoxical, so to say, it also increased management control significantly. As you can imagine, every worker has a smartwatch now. And of course, what happened, they felt tracked. Their activity could be tracked 24/7. Whenever they didn't do any tasks, I could see it in the system. I could approach the team. I could maybe try to find out what worker didn't work correctly. So they felt controlled, of course. And management actually really focused on this control part because, you know, this was something that has never been there before. Now they had digital KPIs that solely focused on worker activity. For instance, they looked at activity times of workers. That means basically they saw, you know, every worker has an 8-hour shift, and they could tell, hey, on average, they only worked for 5 hours. So what did they do the other 3 hours, you know? And this focus really caused a lot of trouble for the company. As you can imagine, if you are a worker and you're approached, hey, why are you only working 5 out of 8 hours? This might cause a lot of discussions. And of course, you feel controlled. And so with this focus on the control function of the digital system, actually, they had a lot of problems with their workers on the shop floor. And, you know, there were some situations where workers started to even destroy the smartwatch, or, you know, they basically said, if you keep controlling us like this, we stop working. So this really got to an extent where it became very critical. One worker even said in an interview that the smartwatch feels like electronic ankle cuffs. So as you can see, these tensions are not just over by waiting, you know, and that was also very interesting for us to see. So at the same time, looking at the other tension that we observed, this was the tension between exploration and exploitation. And this basically means I can do explorative tasks, where I, as the name already says, I explore, I try to find problems to solutions that I didn't, or I identify problems that I couldn't see before. So how the digital system helped here is that it provided real-time information that actually enabled workers and also lower level management to find solutions to reoccurring problems or new solutions, so to say, but it also helped to identify problems that they didn't even know existed. With the detailed information, especially lower management had, they found problems where they didn't even know there were problems. So that was very interesting to see. So this really supported the explorative part of work life. But at the same time, it was also very interesting to see the system also nudged workers to actually, perform tasks as fast as possible because they wanted to have good numbers in the digital system. They wanted to look good on the screen, they wanted to have high activity times, high responsive rates, which is natural, right? Because I know that management is checking these KPIs. So sometimes what they did when there was a problem with the machine, instead of really looking for the root cause, they just turned it on again. So the interruption times were low, the downtimes were low, and everything looked good in the system. But for real production, that actually had bad implications because you're not really solving the problem. You're just turning the machine back on, and that's it. And that was a very interesting thing we saw. And some of these tensions also kind of like were intertwined. So the focus on control actually, and so the focus on control actually caused that the workers only started to focus on this exploitation part. They just wanted to have good numbers in the system. That's it. They didn't want to explore anymore because they knew managers are going to look at the digital KPIs. So, we just try to have low downtimes and we don't care what's happening. So one worker told me in the interviews, there's no time to explore. I only want to have good numbers in the system. And this was also a problem because you actually want your workers to explore, to find sustainable solutions to a problem. You just don't want workers to, quickly get rid of problems just so they're done. You want them actually to explore. And this was another problem that the company faced. So now the question is, now with these effects that we saw, and these are just two tensions that we found. Actually, there were more tensions, but I think those two were the most interesting ones. But with these tensions in mind, what are actually the opportunities and challenges with smartwatches on the shop floor? And of course, there are opportunities for management and shop floor operators alike. So what does this mean? We found, as I already mentioned in the tension section, we found that it can help operator autonomy. You can make operators more autonomous so that they can perform tasks that they couldn't done before, or they needed help, or they needed their team leader. You can enable this through digital information provided on the smartwatch. You also, as you could see in the example from our case company, you could see this to transform your entire shop floor organization. So they used it from a one man, one machine ratio to basically an every man, every machine ratio, because the shop floor organization was based on skills, and that's it. Of course, it also helped with resource efficiency. It could eliminate waste, what we could see. It helped, for instance, so in the production here, they have lots of trolleys that they need to put in certain places. And back in the days, they always had to look for the right place. Now the smartwatch actually indicates where this place is, and they can easily put the trolley there and don't have to waste time. And it also enables management control if you use it correctly and if you don't overstretch it, right? So managers can actually see what is happening on the shop floor in real time. And for the first time, they can not only see the machine performance, but they can also see the actual activity performance of the workers. So they can see how long do workers need for certain tasks and how can we use this information to organize the shop floor even better. And also, you can tailor your information. So not every worker got the same information. You can actually tailor it because the tailoring here in the case company happened based on their skills, right? So whatever skills I had, that's the information I received. And if I didn't have a skill, don't send me this information because I don't need it. So that is also a very interesting thing that we saw. You can actually tailor your information to certain workers. And of course, it also enables and improves transparency in real-time decision support. We saw this especially for lower management, like team leaders. They had decision-making or decision support tools, which have never been there before. This was also a challenge for team leaders because they didn't really know how to read the data, but that is a whole nother story. And a story that I also want to outline with the challenges that a smartwatch system like I introduced can have. So the challenges we saw is, of course, the number one challenge we saw, workers feel controlled and they feel tracked. And this is also a very important leadership task that management needs to deal with. They need to build trust and they need to also really carefully evaluate all of the KPIs that are using, because also the case company here, they realized that, triggering workers with activity times or responsive rates was not a good thing, because it doesn't feel good if your manager comes to you and can tell you exactly how long you worked today. And that's a major challenge. And of course, the cost benefit analysis. It is really hard to see, does it really worth it? So we're currently also evaluating some data in the case company if we actually saw an improvement in the OEE or downtimes or other performance indicators, which is A, really hard to do, and B, so far also to other companies that I talked to, sometimes they haven't really seen any benefits so far, only costs. And that's also a very interesting point and a big challenge also for industry. Then we can never forget about administration of technology. So, we have 300 workers here in the plant, in the case company that I work with, 300 smartwatches. They break, the software doesn't work. There's a lot of things to maintain. And this actually requires, more employees again that take care only of the new technology. And that's also one thing or one major challenge. The same with opportunistic operator behavior. As you could see in the tension section, I mentioned that lots of workers, they only wanted to have good numbers in the system. They didn't really care about, the production itself or anything. So that was another major challenge that we saw. The same goes for micromanagement. That's something that higher management has to really deal with, because now with all the transparency, they really need to deal with this and try not to micromanagement the operational levels. So I just got the information that we have to stop, I think, the master class. So this is why I quickly, I'm gonna jump to the key takeaways. So what I want to say with this presentation is the introduction of new digital technologies actually causes behavioral effects that managers really need to take seriously. And these behavioral effects can be characterized sometimes as tensions, and they need to be managed. It requires a high level of sense, because if there's no automation, it doesn't really send any information to the smartwatch. Dealing with micromanagement is a major challenge, especially for higher management, as they can see everything on the operational level, but it's not their responsibility. And smartwatches, as we figured out, make most sense for really complex processes with many little steps and limited overview. Yeah, thank you so much. it was again great for having me. Yeah, please connect on LinkedIn. I'm more than happy to discuss and give you more insights, even because this was just a very quick overview of my research and just a little part of my research. And you can also check out the YouTube channel of our chair of production and operations management at ETH Zurich. We have lots of videos also on production and operations management topics and also the digitalization there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you very much. A very interesting topic. It's really difficult to balance both agile and flexible manufacturing facilities, consider workers as problem solvers, and at the same time, well, being competitive, productive, and having some KPIs where you can measure the performance of the factories. So I think it's been a very interesting topic, and thank you very much for your participation. Let's stay in contact. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you, Daniel. Bye.